Holy, he said, what? Did Buckingham Palace or Prince William set a trap for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle? And were they gullible enough to fall into it? Again, I have to be careful what I say, but that I won't be able to show my children my homeland. It's almost laughable at this point. Meghan and Harry, once hailed as the fresh modern faces of royalty, have now managed to turn themselves into global punchlines. It is such a pleasure to be here in my new home of the UK. What? They walked away from the palace claiming they wanted privacy. Yet somehow, they've done more interviews, documentaries, and tell-all books than any working royal in history. When you have been lied about for a series of years, how hurtful that is. Privacy, please. That word in their dictionary must mean, let's cash in on every secret and grievance we can milk. Meghan is willing to show pictures of her kids. I think it just depends on how many zeros are at the end of the check. Meghan strutted into the royal family as if she was rewriting centuries of tradition, only to discover that Buckingham Palace doesn't bend for Netflix ratings or podcast sponsors. Meghan views those two children as commercial assets, which is gross and awful. And Harry, well, poor Harry. Once the cheeky beloved prince, he's now the sidekick in his own story, dragged into California talk shows like a man who traded his crown for kombucha. Meghan needs content. It's really quite sad, the irony. They left to protect their children, Archie and Lilibet, from the glare of royal life, only to shove them into the spotlight when it suited the narrative. Prince William has had enough of Prince Harry's ludicrous claims. They've built their entire brand on the idea that the palace is cruel and outdated while simultaneously begging the same institution for recognition and titles. Prince William will strip his exiled brother's children of their HRH titles when he becomes king. But apparently, for me, that doesn't matter. It's like throwing a brick through someone's window, then knocking on the door and asking for tea. And let's not forget the constant contradictions. 1 minute Meghan is crying about how hard royal life was. The next she's posing as a global humanitarian icon draped in couture. Meanwhile, Harry insists he's fighting for his family's dignity while airing every dirty secret about his relatives to the highest bidder. The palace stayed silent for years, watching the circus unfold. But now that silence has snapped, and what they've revealed about Archie and Lilibet cuts deeper than any interview Meghan could stage. But trust me, what comes next will sting even more. But if she hadn't had the children herself, or Harry hadn't been involved, then they can't be in the royal line. They have to have royal blood, those little ones. Without that, there's no chance of them becoming members of the royal family. To understand why Buckingham Palace's move against Archie and Lilibet feels so devastating, you have to go back over a century to a time when royals didn't answer to public opinion, tabloids, or American talk shows. In 1917, King George V issued what's called the Letters Patent, a legal framework that carved in stone exactly who is and who isn't entitled to be called a prince or princess. It wasn't designed to humiliate Harry's kids specifically. It was meant to protect the monarchy from chaos, favoritism, and opportunists trying to sneak in through the back door. The rules are clear: royal bloodline legitimacy, proper birth registration within the Crown's jurisdiction, and religious recognition through the Church of England. No Hollywood loopholes. No, we're living our truth in Montecito exemptions. It's the ironclad law that's kept the monarchy structured for more than a century. And here's where Meghan and Harry's reality show clashes with hard reality. They treated royal titles like bonus points in a game they could win back with enough PR spin or Netflix specials. But the palace doesn't operate on vibes. It operates on precedent. Those dusty old documents matter more than any tearful interview. That's why the palace has remained icy, not because of personal vendettas, but because bending those rules once would open floodgates that could drown the entire institution. Imagine if every distant relative, reality TV star, or celebrity spouse could declare their child a prince or princess just because it felt right. That's not monarchy. That's chaos. And whether you love or hate the royals, one thing is undeniable: order is their currency. Meghan just wants to be an Instagram influencer. That has always been her level, always been her drive. Once everything else has been dried up, the kids are next. The kids were always on the docket to be part of the image selling and everything. Meghan and Harry gambled by betting that their celebrity clout could pressure Buckingham Palace into rewriting history. Instead, the palace just reminded them of a brutal truth: royalty isn't a brand you can repackage. It's a system that doesn't care about your California mansion, your Spotify deals, or your carefully curated sob stories. And for Archie and Lilibet, that system just slammed the door shut. Do you think the palace was protecting tradition or just punishing Meghan and Harry? Drop your thoughts below. Archie's arrival in 2019 should have been the perfect storybook moment. A royal baby born into history, cheered by crowds, plastered across front pages with the kind of fanfare only Britain can stage. Instead, it quickly spiraled into one of the most bizarre controversies the monarchy has ever faced. At first, everything looked normal. The palace released the announcement. The world celebrated, and Meghan and Harry smiled for the cameras. But then came the curveball. Archie's birth certificate was mysteriously altered. Meghan's legal name vanished, replaced with the grand but vague, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. No explanation, no precedent, no consistency with past royal records. Even Diana, even Kate, kept their names on official documents. So why strip Meghan's? Was it her choice, the palace's command, or some botched attempt to reframe Archie's status? That one unusual change cracked open a Pandora's box of speculation. Was the palace distancing itself? Was Meghan trying to erase her old identity? And most importantly, why would something as simple as a child's birth record become such a political landmark? This wasn't a harmless clerical error. It was a signal that Archie's place in the royal ledger wasn't as secure as people assumed. In this case, about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump, the fact is Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie. Every royal baby before him had their paperwork aligned with tradition. But Archie's birth certificate looked like an outlier. And in monarchy speak, an outlier is a warning shot. The world saw a happy baby wrapped in blankets. But behind the scenes, the paperwork was already whispering, this child may never fully belong. If Archie's birth sparked suspicion, Lilibet's arrival turned that suspicion into a deafening alarm bell. Born in California in 2021, she entered the world not with trumpets, official bulletins, or the grand traditions of St. Mary's Hospital. No balcony appearance, no framed announcement outside Buckingham Palace. Instead, a press release from Harry and Meghan's PR team in California.